Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for your time. My name is Calvin. I'm from the SUSS MJ alumni, and we're happy that today this is our second session in the SUSS PA webinar series on health and wellness silver series. And we want to thank PA, the team from Wendy and Daphne for making this possible, together with the SUSS head of gerontology, Dr. Carol Ma, to quickly put this together and let us have this occasion to share different topics and bring vitality to a boring life. We are being bored in our homestay. As you're aware, today the topic is about discovering the world virtually with family and friends. And we are very fortunate to have on board today Jonathan Fu. Is the principal investigator for the Extended Reality Media Lab in SUSS. And he's also called the virtual reality partner. So, but we have him. It's not virtual, it's a real person. He's also the trainer for the gerontology program at SUSS. Now, just logistics-wise, we have the last 15 minutes of this session, which means at 4:45, we'll open up the session for everyone so that we can see your face, we can interact with you, to allow you to ask questions to a panel of myself and Jonathan. And at the same time, if you have some burning questions that you would like to ask us, you can use the function at the bottom of the screen. There's a Q&A. Just click on that box and you'll be able to still enter your questions into this session, right? And my job as a host is to look at the questions and try and consolidate them and try to cluster the topics either in chronological order or in the interest level, right? So I will now do a short introduction of Jonathan. I mentioned that he's the principal investigator. He has also been involved with media and technology industry for nearly 27 years. So he's the guy you go for to create contents for digital devices. And of course, today we are seeing all sorts of digital devices, not just mobile phones, right? Or virtual realities. And he has some very cool gadgets to show you. And from the background of his lab, you can see that it's a high-tech lab, yeah? He also gets involved as the CEO of Veer Network. And this is where he plays with all these toys and he talks to industry partners. And obviously, I think technology shouldn't create a digital divide. In fact, it should close the gap of digital divide through easy to use, through humanization, things which would allow everyone to enjoy to have the joy of technology, right? So I shall now hand over to Jonathan. He has some very interesting slides to show. And he also has a mobile app to show you later. So take it away, Jonathan.
Thanks, Calvin. Afternoon, everybody. I hope the audio level is okay. Okay, so actually today what I want to do is I want to share a little bit about virtual reality, VR, what it is, how we are using it at the university, and also how you can actually use it at home. And as Calvin said, technology is here to assist us, and we really believe that VR is something that is not just there to exist, but there to help us. If anything, it'll make our life a little bit more entertaining. So really, at the university, our research is how we can use the technologies to make life better for people. So VR is something that we've found that has a lot of advantages in education, and also a lot of advantages for different people, and we're using it especially with a lot of the elderly. So I'll share a little bit more about that as we go. So that means I'll just put up some of my my screen here. All right. So today, the real topic here is discovering the world virtually with your family. It's something that it's still a social activity. When you're in VR, you are alone, but it's something that you can really share and enjoy together. Okay, so if we look at this first picture, so this is from the 1800s, and you'll notice this is a typical classroom. And the kids have this device on their heads, and that's called a stereoscope. and they are looking at a picture. If you jump forward 200 years, what do you see? Something strikingly familiar or similar? Actually, it's very similar. Again, you have a typical classroom, and you have students now actually putting a VR device on their head. It's actually really the same thing. It is about wanting to learn through experiencing something that you don't have around you, and VR allows you that. It allows you to actually place yourself into a different space. So when you went 200 years back, it was a time where people were not really able to travel and see the world. So it was actually something very amazing for them to bring photographs, and this would be stereo photographs of the world, and be able to see it in the classroom. Today, we're a little bit more sophisticated. We're not talking about travel. We're talking about maybe not travel to another country, but travel into space, for example. And these children you see on the screen are experiencing that. They're actually being able to simulate going to places that you could not normally go to in the classroom. So it's all about actually experiencing new places and different types of spaces. So what is VR? VR is really, if you want to define it, it's a computer technology. It's an experience that can be accessed on some sort of a device, a PC or a smart device, or as we call it, the thing you put on your head, the head-mounted display. And it will incorporate visuals as well as sound, and it will recreate a different reality. And that's why we call it virtual reality. There's a whole spectrum. We call it the XR spectrum, the extended reality spectrum. So really, it starts off from the real world on one end, and to the other end of the spectrum is total virtual reality, where you go into a space that's completely virtually created. In the middle, you will hear terms like mixed reality, augmented reality, and those are all the in-betweens of this spectrum. So VR actually, or XR, covers a very wide range of different types of products and experiences. So what are some of the experiences? So you may be familiar, we talk about game-based VR. So these are what a lot of people understand of VR, and it's limited to this. So this is they see it as an immersion into a computer-generated virtual environment. So it's totally separate from the real world. So it's an environment created by game engines. So those who are in the industry will know, like Unity, for example. And then you would access it via devices like an Oculus Rift or an HTC Vive. So this is an example. I think it plays as a small clip here, see? So this is, I think most people know this Beat Saber game. So you go into this space, you hold the lightsabers and you hit. So it's game-based VR. You go into a space and you play a game in that space. So this is very familiar to many people. So this is a photo of me. I actually created one of my research, actually created a fencing game. You can see that in the front. And that's me behind trying it out, right? So this is actually game-based VR, going into the environment and being that player on the screen, or being that character that's within the game itself. Another type of VR, and something that I want you all to eventually experience today, is cinematic VR. And that's actually like a video, right? So people will film normal video and you see it on a television screen, but you can also film a 360 cinematic VR. So 360 VR movies that you can sit inside, you can look around, and the movie plays around you. So that's cinematic VR. So that's another photo of me at the bottom. I'm actually in India, in Chennai, and I was on the huge long beach they have there, and I was filming it. And the idea here is that it's live action. It can be in monoscope or stereoscope, and you would be sitting there, and activities would take place in front of you, on the side of you, and behind. So things would be actually all around, right? So this is called cinematic VR. I mentioned about mono and stereo, so just some quick terminology in a sense. I think a lot of you know Avatar, and Avatar started off the 3D stereoscopic trend, really, and a lot of Hollywood films are now coming in stereoscopic as well. So when you're in the VR world, you can also choose to be stereoscopic, where the left and right eye see different things and you see depth, or you can be a monoscopic 360, right? So there are different types of experiences that you can do. Now, there's a crucial difference between the term VR and 360. A 360 video can be watched on any computer or smart device, browser, or application. But to be really VR or virtual reality, it is a personal immersive experience using a head-mounted display and having a total sense of presence within a virtual scene that makes it truly what we call VR. And this is always the common misconception that everything, 360 is VR. Not so. You do need that device to bring you into that space. So what are the type of devices that are, how do you watch it? What are devices that are available for the regular person to watch, right? So we say VR is best viewed in an HMD. There are different types. There are some that are more affordable. You can even use your mobile phone, right, and slip it into a device, and it becomes an HMD, right? And then, of course, then you can spend $1,000 to get something that you need to plug into a computer. But nevertheless, an HMD is your gateway and entryway into the world of virtual reality. So you'll hear this term 6DoF and 3DoF, and what it really means is that in the VR world, that you have certain freedoms of movement. So a typical simple device would allow you a 3 degrees of freedom, which means I can sit on the chair, I can tilt my head up and down, I can turn it left and right, and I can go up and down, and I can move within that space, and that's 3 degrees of freedom. When it's 6 degrees of freedom, I can actually stand in that space, move my body from point to point, and it becomes a room-based experience. So the different devices have different capabilities. Of course, the more expensive ones you can do 6DoF, and the cheaper ones you do 3DoF. So, but it still depends on the type of content that you're trying to experience. And I'll explain it further. So this is an example of some of the devices that are available in the market. You can have a Google Cardboard, which is really a cardboard device. Your mobile phone, click an application, slide it in, you actually can already start to experience VR. Okay, and I'll show you some of the videos that you can get to experience it immediately. There are third-party HMDs. You can get them between $10 to $50 on any of the online shops, and they are also designed for mobile phones to fit into. Then you have the 6DoF higher-end HMDs, and these require a pretty high-spec computer for you to plug into. So the computer actually drives these HMDs, and these allow you, because of the processing that's available, it allows you to actually go into experiences that are interactive. It allows you to move into virtual space, and you can actually move around rooms and imagine that you are actually interacting with a virtual space. So these are done by Oculus, which is owned by Facebook, and HTC Vive, and these are kind of the market leaders today. The next wave would be your 6DoF wireless. This is already out on the market, very difficult to get because it's just the COVID, I think, caused a lot of the manufacturing delays. But you would have the Oculus Quest. It's a 6DoF system, but you don't need it. You don't need to plug it into a computer. Wireless, you can actually walk around the room and already get into interactive VR. So this is something that the technology is moving towards. It's still more expensive. The market rate is about $800 for something like that. But again, let's not have to worry about spending a lot of money for VR. Your mobile phone is really enough to start. You don't need any fancy equipment. If you have a good smartphone, you'll be able to already get good quality VR and already start to enjoy the VR experience at home. Okay. So what is the VR all about? Why is it something that is different from watching a regular TV show? So really, there are 4 points, and the first one is about immersion. So what VR does is VR enables the audience to be completely surrounded by the sound and the vision. So you're in a realistic environment, and it allows you to believe that you're inside an actual space to the point that you respond to it. And that's called immersion. All right, so that's the first piece of the VR experience. The second would be embodiment. Now, embodiment is a perception that a person is physically interacting with a virtual environment. So this is commonly achieved using an avatar, right? A character. You see this picture in front, you can see that the camera has a point of view, it has arms. Okay, so embodiment can be separated into 3 subcomponents: the sense of self-location, being there, the sense of agency, being involved and being able to make decisions, and the sense of body ownership, where you actually feel that your body is in there, and some parts of your body are actually in the visual. So embodiment is the most powerful element in VR, as it tricks our mind, our senses, into thinking that we're actually in the virtual environment. And when our mind starts to believe in it and we start to respond to it, that's where the virtual reality becomes our reality. Okay. The third item is presence, and this is the feeling of actually existing within an environment. When you're talking about, this sense of getting into the mood, and when you're doing something and you forget about time, this is what presence is about. This is called what VR is, and is achieved when you forget about the technology and you begin to react to the virtual stimuli as if you would in the actual world. So this is, when it comes to education, this is defined to be the moment that skills are learned in the virtual world, that the body and the mind actually begin to learn. And when you come out back to the real world, you have learned those skills. So this is what we try to do when we talk about using VR in education to learn skills. We want people to get to the point of presence where they forget about the technology and they only focus on the skill, the experience. So if you are, same thing as you're experiencing a great virtual holiday, you start to forget about technology and you start to believe that you're actually there. And then you actually start enjoying yourself as if you're having a real holiday. So that's the sense of presence. And the last item is really about emotions. It's how we talk about VR. It's called an empathy machine. Basically, the idea is that through an authentic experience, right, it stimulates an emotional response, shows you something that's as real, and you feel an emotion towards. And really, if it feels real and you have real feelings, then the feelings are real. You understand? So they've done experiments where they have actually shown a VR experience. So what they did was, this was a research project, and they went to a charity event. So they broke the charity guests into two groups. One group, they watched the video on regular TV. The other group watched the video on VR. And at the end, they measured how much people donated. And they found that the people who watched things on VR felt a lot more emotion and they donated more money, while the people who watched it on regular TV just donated less. So really VR is able to generate different levels of emotions. Let me put it to you, for example, if you're watching something on a TV screen, you feel like you're just an audience, right? You're just an observer, somebody who's on the outside. So what's happening on TV is what's happening on TV. There's a line. There's a distance between the person on the screen and myself. But if I put the VR headset on and now that person is looking up at me, directly eye contact to my eyes, I see the person, I feel that I can almost touch the person. I am no longer the observer. I am now a participant. And now I am not just somebody seeing poverty, for example. I'm actually in the poverty, meeting a person who lives in that poverty, and the emotion and the empathy is definitely going to be at a different level. So that's why we call VR an empathy machine, something that can be used that way. It's something that can increase people's feelings and emotions to what they're watching. So it's a very powerful tool if used correctly. So what we are doing at the university, some projects, so share a little bit about a project with I come from actually the science and technology, science and technology, and now I'm working together with the Gerontology department, and I help teach one of the courses there as well. And one of the projects we're looking at is how we can use VR with elderly and people who are living with dementia as well. So we've done it and tested it in different environments. Now, the basic thinking is really, when we are very healthy and mentally young and healthy, a lot of the information we process is at the cognitive system. But as we get older, or we go through certain things in life, the cognitive system is the one that starts to get damaged. When we talk about people who have dementia, it's actually the cognitive area that gets a lot of problems. So what happens here is that with VR, because it's a total experience, we are starting to stimulate the experiential system and the emotional systems. And the whole idea that when we can stimulate a person's brain to use the different parts of it and not just the cognitive, we are actually allowing them to use the brain further and to be able to stimulate other parts of it. So if we can stimulate your long-term memory, it can help also stimulate the short-term memory. So that's the basis of that. So what type of content to all these elderly patients, some of them are patients, some of them are home-based, but what do they like? So things like virtual tours, holidays, virtual exercises. And I think if you talk about ourselves today in COVID-19, we're all at home and we miss a lot of getting out, a lot of going to places. So some of these things that were, I guess, taken for granted, that were always available to us, are suddenly not available to us. So what are they? Tours. I want to travel. Suddenly I can't travel. I want to see the world. I know a lot of people that used to go down every morning to the void deck and do some exercises. Today you can't even go there. You go there, you get fined $300. I know a story of some people who were trying to meet at the void deck, and they were chased around by all these safe distancing ambassadors. Reminiscence therapy, creating visuals from the past so that it helps older folks recall from the past, from your long-term memory, thus stimulating the short-term memory, right? We have dementia stimulation. These are more teaching and training people how to feel as if a dementia patient is feeling like a person, so that you can actually empathize and sympathize and help to manage them. There's care processing, onboarding, training, awareness, empathy, distraction from pain. VR has been proven to be very effective to be a distraction from pain. So as an alternative to painkillers, there are some people now using VR, and you are able to visualize pain, and there's actually a game now where you can shoot the pain. Pain becomes like little creatures, and then you actually shoot the creatures and you kill the pain. And psychologically, it removes the pain from your body as well. There's isolation management, especially now in COVID-19. There are a lot of people who are very lonely. We think that VR can actually, bring a person to you, a person to communicate, whether it's an animal, a human, but it can take away that loneliness and put you in a place where you're with others, right? And also as a motivational tool. So these are some of the type of content that we believe can be created. I teach a VR class as well at SUSS, and my students are now producing content for old folks. So they are trying to understand what some of the elderly people like, and they are creating now content. So at the end of the session today, I'll give you an access code where you can actually go in and experience some of this content that's been created specifically for the elderly. So let me share a little bit about some of the experiences. So we've gone into nursing homes. So there are a bunch of different nursing homes that we work with. So this is one of the nursing homes we went to. And if you look at it, you can see we were running it through a tablet, and we were bringing these residents there on a tour. So this was actually quite exciting. We got them into a point where they were really very excited, and they were asking for requesting. One lady was asking me, "Can you bring me to the Taj Mahal?" So I said, "Okay," and we brought her to the Taj Mahal, and we said, "Oh, why Taj Mahal?" She says, "Oh, I've been there when I was younger." So we asked her, what does it mean to you? And she said, "Oh, it actually means about love." So wow, I was very touched by that. And it was, it's a nice experience to share and talk, because when you bring all these experiences back, all these older folks, they lived, before they were in nursing homes, they lived very active, healthy lives. And a lot of them went through many things, and they are now, but a lot of things were forgotten. So some of these experiences now that we bring back to them in VR stimulate these memories, and they're able to talk about it and share. And actually this sharing actually makes the quality of life much better. Even if it's for that one day, it does. And it helps them to recall and enjoy the moments, good moments from their past. If you look at the top left-hand side, that gentleman, he went in there for about half an hour into VR. He loved every moment of it. We were putting him on race cars, on all kinds of different experiences, and they were enjoying all of that. We had one dementia patient in here who loved animals, and we put her into a herd of elephants, and she was actually screaming away, which is quite funny. But she was enjoying it, So it's about finding out what people like, and then matching the content to help them, think and remember those experiences that they have had or they wish to have. We've also gone to daycare centers. So these are people who come in just for a daycare. Sometimes they come in for a little bit of occupational therapy and other activities. So these gentlemen came in, they were very quiet. They were almost hunched over in the wheelchair. But as we started to show them VR, suddenly the necks would expand. Suddenly they were turning left and right, and they were starting to talk to each other. And we had shared experiences for all three of them. So we had an experience where all of them were looking at the same thing. And the gentleman on the top right, he became eventually the tour guide because we brought them to China, and he had been to some of these places. So he started to actually describe to everybody what was going on. He became the tour guide, leading people everywhere and sharing his past experiences with them. So that was actually very, very nice. And the gentleman on the left was saying, "Oh, if you can do this type of thing, and it's not so bad to come back to daycare anymore." You know, some of these people actually are very reluctant to come to daycare. We went to hospitals as well. So this was actually at CGH. So these are patients, so people who have had falls or illnesses, and they come into the hospital for short-term treatment. So we've also tried it with some of the patients there. So they actually enjoyed it. Different age groups. CGH tended to have people who were 80 and above in the ward. So these were really the older group. But still they were able to appreciate it, the visuals, and get into it. Of course, we have to control the timing. I would always advise people not to go into VR for too long, especially if you're looking at it on a mobile phone device. Maybe 10 minutes at most, and then you need to rest. So we brought these patients into the space, and they were kind of enjoying it as well. Another project that we did, and this was in response to the COVID-19, was we worked with the Alzheimer's Disease Association. And the ADA, what they do is they have this thing called Memories Cafe, and they've been having it for a few years. And they gather their members. So these are all the people living with dementia as well as their families. And they gather together, about 20, 30 of them, at different cafes in Singapore. And different groups of volunteers will come to sing with them, dance with them, do activities. And this was something that they were looked forward to. But when COVID-19 came, the first thing that they stopped were all the activities for the elderly. So what we did was we stepped in and we said, hey, we shouldn't let COVID, take away, this 1 day a week that helps to stimulate the minds of these people living with dementia. So what we should do is we should bring it into the VR space and live. So what we did was we did VR 360 live streaming. So we streamed VR 360 into the homes of all the patients, of the people living with dementia. And really, it went from, your regular 30 people, and we were reaching about, 300, 400 people by the time we were doing the 5th or the 6th week of this activity. So we did it. You can see the pictures from the home. They were not necessarily using the HMDs because they did have that available, but they were watching it on laptops, on tablets, on computers, on TV sets. They were able to, because it was 360, they were still able to drag and spin and move around the room. So we had, for example, like this group, we had them around the VR, the camera. And so the viewers at home could actually pan around the room and see all the people around them. So that was what was happening. And that was actually quite exciting. But again, we then had to stop this in the last month because the COVID safety arrangements really didn't even allow us to go and produce it. So we hope that this is something that can carry on when the better days come back, right? So what are the benefits? So these are some of the benefits we've discussed with the clinical doctors. And the benefits are really for some of the older folks are that it provides a calm, soothing environment for people with dementia. So they don't, a lot of the people living with dementia, they don't like to be in unusual, unfamiliar places. So if they see familiar faces or familiar activities, they are able to be less agitated. So we want to give them that sense of comfort and familiarity. It encourages gentle, seated physical activities to improve their moods, their general well-being. It reduces boredom. We're talking about a lot of isolation today, in COVID-19 especially. And what we're finding is that VR can encourage social interactions with fellow patients or staff or even other people around you. And then the dementia causes a loss of short-term memory, long-term memory remains intact. So using things like reminiscence as therapy, so showing them old photos and stuff will stimulate their long-term memory. So that's been very useful. But it's not just for the elderly. We also go into the community. So we actually did some, we're actually starting some programs at the Yihua constituency, where we're getting young people involved in creating content and then doing content for the older folks. So you see here from everybody from children to the older folks, everybody's very excited about using this new technology and see how that they can actually use it, even if it's for entertainment or for learning. It has a lot of possibilities. So one of the projects we did just before the COVID shutdown was we tried VR for morning Qigong exercises. So we had some volunteers come in, we shot it in VR 360, and we streamed it into some of the homes. And people were able to actually go in to the VR space and exercise together with the volunteers. So this is something that we've started and we hope to continue. So you can see a lot of users that are not just entertainment, some of it are more social, some of it can be exercise-based, but a lot of different types of content to make the whole experience quite exciting. So the question is, how do you get VR content? So one of the places is actually online. There's a lot of VR content that exists. You can get it from YouTube VR. If you have a mobile phone, you can immediately go on, look for YouTube VR, and there's a lot of very good VR content. Air Panel is one of the producers who does a lot of aerial shots of the world. You can get some very good quality stuff there. But I wanted to introduce you today to an application, okay? It's actually by Google. It's called Google Expeditions. And if you have an Android or an iOS phone, you just go to the shop, you can download Expeditions, okay? And Expeditions allows you to already experience it. So let me now share with you my phone, and I'll just show you how you can, it's so simple to start to my phone. Let me see, we should be putting that, okay. That's my phone and that's me behind there. There you go, that's me. Okay, so if you notice there's an Expeditions application. So if I hit Expeditions, this is what you can download. This is free, it's by Google. So what you do is you download it and you go into this Google Expeditions. Now Google Expeditions is a fantastic piece of application. It allows you to experience VR yourself, but it allows you to also, if you're a teacher or educator or you want to run a group of people, it also allows you to lead a class and lead a group of people who are going to who want to go into this virtual space. So here you'll see there's a lot of existing content, and all this content is free, created by different people. It's like an open source system, mostly by educators. So let's go to the first thing, festivals around the world. I'm going to click that, right? And it's going to pull that out. So you have the choice of viewing it straight away, viewing in VR, or guiding. If you guide it, a number of people can go into the same thing at the same time, and you can experience it together. But let's look at the simple thing and just say view first. So I'm going to view it, okay? So when I view it, it's going to download it into my phone, and this is what I have. So if I take my finger and I put it across my screen and I pull it across, as a very simple point, I can already go around in 360, okay? Now, if I want to watch it in VR, on the top, you'll see like a little like two eyes, right? A little VR headset on the top of the screen. You press that button, the one that's in white now. You press it, and it actually tells you to now put it in the cardboard. So if you have a Google Cardboard or some sort of VR head-mounted device that you can put a phone into, this is where you put it in, right? And then this is what you'll see. One picture for your left eye, one picture for your right eye. And if I turn it to the left, it moves. I turn it to the right, it moves, okay? But if you don't have that, no need to worry. You see the bottom right, the square, you click that, it opens up into a big screen. See, now I can see it without a head-mounted display. I can move around. So if I turn to my left now, you'll see the beautiful building and the sky. All right, so this is how you can already start to experience it. You can go back inside the room. You can see what's on the floor. You can see what's above in the roof. right? And I'm just turning my mobile phone around, right? So that's the one very simple way of experiencing it. So if you look at this, right, this is, we can go, this is designed as a tour. So it's got different other places you can go. So I'm going in now. I can see I can even zoom in. Okay. So I want to now go into the next room, right? So I'm going to go and press next. Okay. And it's going to bring me to the next room. So now, okay, so where are we now? All right. Ah, wonderful. We are now, oh, wow. Check out. Look at that. It's fantastic. So we're in a wonderful balcony, right? You can look around. You can see what's going on outside. The whole space. Okay. So this is Google Expeditions. Lots of different tours available. I'll turn it back and bring you back to the main settings, and you'll realize that you actually have a lot of content, AR, VR content, arts, culture, landscape, science, environment, world today, careers. So if you scroll down, you'll see a lot. There's a lot of historical pieces as well. So this is a very nice educational tool. It's good to share with the family. It's good to share with even children who are interested to learn. A lot of this has information as well. So besides being the space, you can read the information for the stories behind certain locations or whatever they're talking about in the VR space. All right. Okay. So then the other thing I will introduce you all next is I will pull out my last slide. Okay, which is going to be a QR code, okay? But I'm going to show you how to do it before I switch back to the QR code. So now while you're still looking at my phone, I'm going to go back to my, your camera or some QR code. And basically I'm going to capture the QR code that I have, okay? And then later on you can click it, open it, okay? And it's going to open this QR code into your YouTube. What I want you to do is make sure that you open it into your YouTube app. Don't watch it in your YouTube in the Explorer or whatever. Okay, not in, yeah. We want it to be inside the YouTube app itself. So it's going to pull it up. So it's going to say on the screen a playlist that I'm going to introduce to you. So this is the playlist there. You can hit the red play button and it should ask, I hope it just asked me to, no, it didn't ask me. Okay, mine doesn't always has that issue, but it should ask you whether you want to load it in the YouTube app, okay? So the other way to do it is, okay, my phone just died, sorry. Okay, the other way is to pull it out, go to the YouTube app. If I can find my YouTube app. Okay, I can find. You go to your YouTube app basically, and then scan that. Okay, try YouTube. Okay, and now I'm in the playlist. Okay, and then I play. Okay, so what will happen is then you'll be able to see it in VR, and if you turn the phone, of course, you'll be able to see it in 360. Okay, so let me get out of here now and go back to the QR code. Okay, and this is the QR code. So if you want to do this, you can see some of the VR content that my students have created. Some are quite interesting. You have places like botanical gardens, Kusu Island. There was some karaoke that also works in the VR environment, singing along with the bands. You can also, one of my students actually said, hey, I think older folks are going to like riding a motorcycle. So he jumped on this motorcycle with his VR camera and he decided to speed around Singapore. So there's the last scene where he really speeds down to us and he beats the, zigzags between all the cars. Very exciting, but I don't know whether it's comfortable to really experience for everybody. But that's the type of content that's available. So there's a lot of things out there, things that you can share with the family, things you can share with the older folks. Yeah, so that's really my my sharing today about what VR is. You know, we do a lot of course creation courses at SUSS, and there are a lot of opportunities that you can also, if you're interested, to volunteer and share the VR content with the elderly. We're also doing that at the Yuhua Loving Hearts MSC. So, you know, if there anybody who's interested to get involved, just you can always follow up and send us an email if you're interested. Okay, Kelvin, over back to
Yeah,
you.
sure, no problem. Stay online, don't hang up. I think as you were talking and presenting, thanks to you. I think we are better informed now of the resources, the free contents that's available, and how we can enjoy VR. I wonder, Joy, could you show the other panelists now so that we have a look at them? There are quite a number of them who ask very interesting questions. Let me start off chronologically. I think the first question is, you know, how they can enjoy as a family, right? Because right now, you know, a few people are probably in different places, and if I put on, you know, my VR goggle or turn on that VR content, other than watching the YouTube version, how can a few people to link up together? Do you have some suggestion?
Yeah, we find that actually with the COVID-19, everybody's actually in very different places, and that has actually created a lot of challenges for us. I mean, one of the things that we do to try to kind of cover that issue is like what we did with ADA, Alzheimer's Disease Association. We did live streaming. So what is possible is actually to find an interesting event or an activity that you want to share with people at home, and then to actually film it in VR 360, stream it live, and then audiences anywhere can have their HMDs, or not even HMDs, they can look at it on any device and they can still have the 360 experience, and then watch it from home. So that has been what we've been doing to try to share that experience across different locations.
Okay, that would be pretty cool, because then you can actually bring, you know, people into the same, you know, immersive world together, rather than, you know, while somebody's enjoying, try to describe, and somebody else is not in that same instance. We don't really know what he or she is babbling about. Oh, there's also a question.
Yeah,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
That's important also that you know, you can be in the same room and watch the same thing. But yeah, I think what we try to do is, especially now during the period where we're all at home, if we can do that, that's actually the additional value for everybody.
I was wondering where you can get the cupboard, you know, to put the phone on. Where's the best place? Taobao or whatever.
Any of the online shops, I think as cheap as $5-6 you can get already.
Or we can make our own.
The lenses are a bit hard because you still have to put a little plastic lenses in.
Oh yeah. There's the magnifying glass thing, right, to make it fit.
I have bought online. I've gone to Lazada, Shopee, and all that, and $5-6 they'll send it to you in 2 days.
Okay. Maybe you could give us a link to make the job easier later after this session. There's also from one participant asking about you know, what's your experience of you know, any or you've read or some articles about the emotional quotient, right? The EQ part versus face-to-face, right? Obviously, you know, having a face-to-face, it's always a much more emotional kind of empathy evoking. But then if it's something which is on VR, you'll never be 100%. So what roughly is the percentage, just for this, you know, for what you have read before?
Well, I think one of the skills that we always talk about when it comes to learning in VR is Edgar Deal's cone of experience, and it's really about how much you remember when you learn something or when you're exposed to something by different media. So, for example, weeks, right, after going through a certain experience. So he found that when you read text, right, a book, After 2 weeks, you learn maybe about 10%. If you listen to it, okay, you would remember about 15, 20%. And it went on as you start to do it. And basically, of course, nothing beats the idea of doing something and being really immersed in a real environment. But if you cannot, what is the nearest? And when they did it on simulators and things like VR, they found that the memory or what you remember was up to 90%. So based on that, in terms of learning or remembering an experience, the closer you are to a real activity, and that's what VR does. VR is actually a simulator. So it's just like the pilots. The pilots for years have been flying planes, but before they're allowed the real plane, they got to clock hundreds of hours on a flight simulator. So the same thing is VR. It's getting into it and being able to experience something in a safe environment that you are allowed to make mistakes. Because there are some jobs and some environments that you cannot afford to make mistakes. You make a mistake, you die, right? So here they actually, so the idea of simulation is to get it going into an environment, being able to simulate it, your mind's able to go through a process, there's muscle memory, and you do enough of it. So then when you finally go into the real environment, it's as good as you've done it 10 times. Yeah.
I think that's a very interesting follow-up question about it's so real, right? So it's almost like you go for a roller coaster ride, and then you feel your knees are weak when you have to step out. So there's a question about especially anyone. I mean, actually not necessarily seniors. How do they need to sort of readjust after that very real VR experience? I've done one before where I put on the glasses and I was told to like step forward, but the image is like if I step forward, I will fall over a tall building. So that's pretty scary. So I suppose for the first time somebody using VR, if they chose a very extreme content and they got to step out of it, do you have any advice or any experience?
Well, the first thing is, I think everybody needs to understand that there are different types of quality, okay, of different product. So the worst or which is the easiest is actually the mobile phone experience, because the mobile phone, everybody has it. So many people experience VR on a mobile phone and putting into one of the devices. The problem with that is mobile phones are not designed specifically for VR. So we're actually using it kind of as a shortcut, right? So the problem is actually to do with technology, and it's about refresh rate. When you are looking at VR, the idea is to recreate reality so that, and it's actually going through a lot of processes. So you'll find that your mobile phone and any devices in VR, you'll find them, they get very, very hot because they're actually processing a lot of data. So what you do is as you turn and you look, imagine you just turn your head a little bit, it's nothing. But the computer is actually calculating millions of data to calculate your position, to match the visual to your position. So it's always matching and refreshing. So the problem with mobile phones is that they're refreshing not at a quick rate, a rate that's not quick enough. So when you're moving, the image is actually not keeping up with you. So that starts to affect your brain. Your brain's not going to be able to process it properly. And that's where you get things like motion sickness, where you get a lot of discomfort, right? A lot of people get nausea out of that. So that's part of the problem is the devices. There are better devices, like I mentioned, those more expensive professional devices. So those devices, you can go in, and I've seen people go in for 2 hours, 3 hours at one go, and it's comfortable enough. Okay, it's still heavy, but you don't get that motion sickness. So what I always advise, and what we do with the patients and the residents of nursing homes, is we always time it. And we say, okay, the basic experience, don't go past 15 minutes. If you want to experience VR, go into it, enjoy it, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, stop. Take a rest, and then go back in again. And then that's the best way to enjoy it. Enjoy it in little bits rather than trying to go in and go for a long experience. Because you're probably going to come out dizzy, and you're probably going to end up vomiting. Yeah.
Yeah, I think, thanks. I think there's also instances where people are more, as they are more familiar, they want to create their own content. And so this question comes as in like, what is your advice for people who like to self-create their own content, right? So to show people a VR version of their garden, of their homes, right? What tools are available and what's your advice?
Okay, in fact, I teach a lot of classes now. I teach, I have a VR video production filmmaking class for the digital media students. We're using VR creation as an assessment for the students in gerontology. We're using VR also as a solution for the facilities and events management students as well. Really, the barriers of entry have come down tremendously. You can actually get a very decent VR 360 camera, which is what you need to do. You can get something out in the market from like an Insta360 or even a Xiaomi for less than $300. So you just that will be your base that you need to get. Obviously, those are more consumer level cameras. So if you wanted something more professional, of course, it'll cost more. But if you want to spend about $300, you can get something decent. And then it's all about going there and capturing the environment. You know, I teach the normal video production classes as well, and my students always come in after that, and I say, okay, everything that you've learned from me before, now you throw away. Now we've got to relearn everything again. You know, so it's actually about how you now frame things differently. You look at things differently. I explain about how the difference really is how you are now moving from a position of a observer to a participant. And that's the main difference between traditional video and VR, is that you're moving away from just a third party, you know, no connection, no emotion, to actually now becoming part of the actions, even a decision maker or even a participant of what's going on in the scene. So that's a different way of thinking. Then that how you position your camera will be decided by how you want to tell that story. In terms, the simplest was just now I mentioned to you, I showed you Google Expeditions. Okay, the easiest way to start creating VR content is to create a Google Expedition. So you can actually go to Google, what I call it is tour creator. So all of these are online. You can search tour creator by Google. It allows you to actually create a VR experience and you publish onto Expeditions itself. So that's the best way to start it off. Do VR basically still photospheres. You don't think of video yet, do it as photospheres, still photos telling the story, and then do that, get that correct, and then move into the VR film space. I think it's kind of a step at a time.
Okay, yeah. I suppose the creation part is just as important as watching, right? Like you mentioned, on the other side of not just an observer but becoming a creator, and that itself may be even more personalized, and they enjoy the whole process. Okay, maybe we could hear from you later what are the resources, how to attend your class. And hopefully it's not like a 10 session class, but we are all very lazy, right? If we can learn it within 2-3 hours and try it out, I think it will be quite fun, and hopefully as easy as doing a selfie. The other thing, it's also, I think you mentioned that you have experience working with nursing homes and all these places, where some of the seniors may be more sensitive to contents, and because of eyesight and vision, etc. So it's 10 minutes more or less that kind of guideline that you've seen, especially for dementia seniors?
Yeah, 10 minutes is probably about it. I mean, we did test in the earlier days. We did try even half an hour, and we had unfortunately one resident, he loved it. He had the best time of his life, that half an hour. But after we took it off, he was like leaning, and we had to like push him back to his bed. So it is actually different people can take it longer. There are actually 4% of the population in the world who will never be able to take VR, because they are the same group that cannot take stereoscopic 360. They cannot have two different images on the eyes, and for the brain to process it is difficult for them. So there'll always be 4% who cannot do it. But the rest of the world, it's about getting used to it. Like I mentioned, it's down to the device quality. For myself, I don't even like looking at things on the mobile phone. Even for me, I get within 15 minutes, I feel uncomfortable. But if you get a good device, get something like an Oculus, Actually, half an hour, 45 minutes is not a problem. But still, for the elderly, especially those that are have conditions, right? They are in homes and nursing homes or in hospital. We always try to limit it to that 10 to 15-minute blocks, 2 blocks within an hour. So we are actually now designing treatments or actually alternative kind of treatments for the old folks. And we have actually found that the optimum exposure is within an hour to get 2 exposures of 15 minutes within an hour, and doing that once a week. So those are some of the numbers that we're currently working with.
Okay, thank you so much. I think we are now to the last bit of this whole session, and of course the questions are still coming in. We will definitely try our best to get back to some of these questions, because learning is ongoing, it's perpetual, right? But definitely, I think we learned a lot from you, Jonathan, today, and thanks for being so generous to share your knowledge, your work, and what else we can do to create a better quality of life for everyone, and also enjoy this this time that we are, in our own home. And thanks to also the facilitator and PA for making this possible. For everyone who enjoys this Silver Series, I have a shout out. I think the organizer have also told you that tomorrow there's an exercise session. So today you get to hear knowledge, tomorrow exercise, and then after that you hear some knowledge again. So we hope this will be ongoing and we can get to see more of what Jonathan is doing in his fantastic lab. I'm jealous of all your gadgets behind. We hope to arrange a session to visit you, and I'm sure you'll be totally filled up, and we can learn more. So thank you, everyone. Thanks, Jonathan, again, and appreciate your time.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, bye-bye.